Sharpies in the morning.
Oh, I think, are we live?
Are we
Hi,
live?
everyone.
Hi.
Oh, look, I'm seeing responses already.
Okay.
Hello from the Little Brown offices here in New York City. I'm Helen O'Hare. I'm a senior editor here, and I have had the honor over the past few years of working with Susanna Hoff. So I believe people here will know who you are, but you want to make an introduction?
Oh, well, I am pinching myself. I'm holding back tears. I just met everyone here in the actual offices because Helen and I had a long distance relationship during the course of editing our editing relationship on This Bird Has Flown. So it's a total pleasure to be here with Helen and her team and with you all. So thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. And I'll say, if you would like to get a signed copy, we're going to have Susanna start signing, so you will witness it. But if you want a signed copy, I believe you've got an address for premiercollectibles.com/Hoffs for our wonderful Susanna here. So you can order that book whenever you are ready. And we've got signatures going. So, so I'll say, you all likely know Susanna as a musician, a singer, a songwriter, a wonderful all-around person for many, many decades now.
Thank you.
Co-founder of the Bangles.
Yep.
Singer of love songs that have defined our lives. So when I read Susanna's novel,
should I sign too?
Yeah, I think you keep going, right?
Yeah.
Keep going.
So.
And I'm seeing some love here. Thank you, guys. So when I first read Susanna's novel, I was curious. What is it? What's it going to be like? What's she going to say? Of course, there's a musician in the book. There's music. There's the music world, but there's so much more. And I fell totally in love. I read the book in one sitting. I spent more time with it than my husband that day. I think this might be a common theme. And I knew I had to work with Susanna. So Susanna, tell us why, writing a novel. Did you always know you wanted to write a novel? Did you always know you wanted to be an author? How did this happen?
Well, from childhood, I was always a reader. I loved reading. I loved movies. I loved music. And to me, there's a story in all of those formats or genres. And so, but I was a real avid reader. My mom would take me to the library, and I would plant myself in the section that I was interested in. And finally, she'd have to drag me out of the library. And my mother has always been a huge reader too. Mm-hmm. So I kind of graduated from the age-appropriate books that a little girl would read to getting my mom's hand-me-down. I guess I should be signing while I'm talking.
As you go, yeah.
To my mom's, sorry, I sang last night at this event.
You did, beautifully.
And I'm a little bit hoarse today, but I graduated to reading my mom's cool paperbacks in adolescence, and certain books like Jane Eyre, for example, I've read over the course of my lifetime many times. And actually that book was an inspiration thematically for This Bird Has Flown.
Will you tell us a bit about, I love hearing you talk about it, but tell us what made you fall in love with Jane Eyre, and why did you want to draw on that in your first novel?
Well, I always thought I had such love of Charlotte Bronte's writing, but also, sorry for where's the water?
The water's under.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I was very intrigued by the fierceness of that protagonist of Jane Eyre. I thought she really had a lot of challenges and struggles as a child, and she gets this job, being a tutor at Mr. Rochester's in Gothic.
Right, as we all thought would happen to us as children. But,
Gothic home. For those who haven't read Jane Eyre, I won't give away any spoilers, but it's just the fierceness of the character intrigued me. And even though I was writing a modern character who's a one-hit wonder, both characters have to go through a journey to kind of coming into their own. And I also, it's hard to multitask.
I know, it's okay.
I'll just put the pen down just for a second. Don't worry, I'll sign every single book.
We won't let her leave.
I know. There's also a book called Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier that had similar themes, and I also loved that book. In that book, the character is the unnamed protagonist. But they both intrigued me just thematically. And I was toying around with those ideas as I was crafting what my book could be about. And then I thought, I knew I was going to tell a modern story, not something set a long time ago, and I realized that if I made my character a musician, I would be able to pull some aspects of what the journey of being a musician feels like, looks like, sounds like,
Yeah.
on all levels. And so I just sort of hit play or hit go, and I just started to explore. And the early drafts of the novel were a different opening. I don't want to give anything away, but for you guys who are going to just find the book now, but I just was swept away by the experience. I love listening to music, so I realized along the way I had unwittingly created a playlist that worked so well to inspire my writing. And as soon as I would listen to a song, I would just, it was like a movie screen. This is how I've been describing it because I didn't have words for it till recently. It was like a movie screen came down and I was watching the movie version of what the book is. But the characters would start talking, they'd be interacting. I always had to keep a pad by my bedside, you know, at the bed table there. And I would wake up in the middle of the night with ideas. It's like once I started, it's like that movie, The Red Shoes, where the dancer puts on the red shoes and keeps going and can't stop. That's what it felt like. It felt like an addiction to something, but a positive addiction, a healthy addiction. And I just spent years on it, to be honest with you, but it was so fun. And my husband would walk in after his day of work and find me in the same exact place that he'd seen when he left for work and said, "You're still writing?" I was like, "I can't stop. I'm sorry. I can't stop." And he'd say, "Well, what are you writing about?" I say, I'm writing very personal stuff between my character and her new boyfriend. So that kind of thing.
I love it. Well, I will say, I think one of the first things I said to you is I felt like there's a wonderful love story in this book. If you read it, you'll see. But I felt like I had sort of entered this love affair in the book as well. So hearing you talk about how you were sort of sneaking off to see your book boyfriend, you know, boyfriend. That's how I felt reading this. It is.
It's a book boyfriend.
I can't really imagine a better book boyfriend than Tom Hardy. I will be curious if people feel the same way that I do. It's so interesting hearing you talk about, I mean, for me as an editor, it seems like every author writes differently. I mean, in the sense of how the stories come to them, how they engage with the actual writing. And I think it's interesting to hear you talk about seeing this like a movie screen because it feels so cinematic. Like that energy, I felt like I was watching a movie in this book. You've just really captured that beautiful sort of grand feel of what it's like to be Jane Start moving through the music world, moving through, where does this book go? Las Vegas, London, Oxford,
South of France,
all the places that I wanted to go these past few years have not been. So I think here's like my nudge. I'm like, oh, so it's so cinematic. I think rumors of a movie in the works as well.
There's a film adaptation in the works. So it worked for my process that I visualized the movie version. It helped me to write it because I especially during the pandemic, I was home working. I wasn't touring. I wasn't doing much. I mean, I actually did record a lot of music during that time, but so and at night, every night, I would gift myself the experience of just watching a movie because every time you immerse yourself in a story of any sort, whether it's a film, a story within a song, reading a poem, anything that it helps the process. I think it really helped my writing to be always watching things and absorbing how good storytellers, like the kind of movies I was watching, all excellent films, I would learn something. Everything became a lesson for the book. That's the weird thing. And a pleasurable lesson.
And I feel like you can sense that reading this book is such an immersive experience. Like you can sense that you understood what it's like to go into a story and to spend time in a world with characters. And again, that's just what I love. I like to be taken out of my out of my reading chair, my reading couch. Thank you. We've got these stacks of books moving along here. I just never get sick of hearing you talk about the book. So how does it feel to have it written now and out in the world? Today is our pub day.
Which
is so exciting. Congratulations.
I had to, in my lifetime, I have two sons. So I've birthed I've birthed 2 children, and I'm very proud of them. And now this is my new baby.
Yeah, your third.
This
third
is my
child.
3rd child, and it's a girl.
It's a girl.
It's a girl. Oh, this is so funny. I never thought of it this way because I
That's
have
funny.
2 sons, but now I've birthed a little
I
girl.
can see the Christmas
Well,
card.
she's not a little baby anymore. She's got the cutest outfit.
Yes.
And I met the wonderful
designer.
woman who designed this for the
Yes.
first time. When I opened my computer and Helen had sent me the cover, I don't even know I don't have the words right now to describe that moment. But today, on this very special day when I'm with you, all of you, to have met Amy, right? No,
Lucy.
Lucy,
Close.
sorry.
That's okay.
Lucy.
She met a lot of people.
I met so many people. Oh, sorry.
A lot of
Lucy.
fans here. Yeah.
Lucy, who designed this.
Yeah. Well, we just knew it's one of those. I mean, cover design is always one of the. You just never know. You can never predict
It's
how
a
it's going to go.
mysterious
Yeah,
thing.
and even for us, it's we get in the room and you never know what the designer's going to come back with, what they will have experienced in the book.
Right?
So it was really great. This cover went up, and we just, we all knew this was. We hoped you would agree.
Oh yes.
But we set the cover to Sue, and just having that response from you was incredible.
Oh, it was so exciting.
And it really does feel. I mean, this is, what I loved about the book. It's a romance. There's the great love story. It's a story of a travel and adventure going to London and Oxford. But I guess what I really loved is Jane herself. And you talked a bit about Jane Eyre. So I think for you too, Jane was the heart of the story. But to follow this woman on her adventure in her mid-30s, where I am also, and just to think about, what is
great.
How do you pursue what you want in life, and how do you restart when you are stuck somewhere? So for me, having Jane on the cover was very, very important.
Yes. Definitely.
And I'm glad you agree.
I do. Oh my gosh. I was just stunned when I saw it. I thought it was so beautiful.
Good. I think we have some audience questions.
Yes.
I'm going to have to ask you to unlock this phone again. You can see the editor and author in us where I'm a little bit less tech savvy. So thank you for bearing with us. And thank you for signing all of these books. It looks great.
Are there more to sign? Oh, good.
Yeah,
great.
You're doing great.
Then.
Yeah, we'll talk. So let's see some audience questions here. Okay. Ooh. Let's see. This is one I think maybe we answered, but let's get one more out of you.
Yeah.
Mickey in Kansas says she's excited to read the book.
Yay, Mickey.
What is a favorite book of yours that you've read?
So many. There were certain books that I read over and over again while writing this. One was Jane Eyre. Another was Rebecca, as I said. But there are some other books, like I revisited F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby, for example. I just think the language, his sentence structures, the lyrical, beautiful descriptions were so magnificent. I don't even know how to. As a family, we started. Jackson, Sam, Jay, and I, my husband and 2 kids, we were marveling over the writing in The Great Gatsby. There's one passage that's just, I guess it's a famous one, where it described 2 women sitting in the living room and the curtains are billowing, and it's just so beautiful that you kind of can't believe your eyes and your ears when you hear those words in your head. And so I revisited that. I revisited a book called Sophie's Choice by William Styron that I had loved. Also, lyric, language, gorgeous. What else was on my shelf there? I had multiple copies of Jane Eyre. Remember the one that had the profile?
Yes, we talked about that one.
The silhouette. This always happens when I draw a blank.
I know, it's always hard.
Yeah.
When someone asks you what you're reading, even in publishing, we're always like, it's like, of course we're reading all the time.
I started to read the my mom's tattered paperback. So I reread Fear of Flying, Erica Jong, because it's mentioned in the book. And music was also important. We were talking about last night at the book event, the theme from Shaft, how much the theme from Shaft delighted me to include my own personal antidote to fear of flying, because I've always been a nervous traveler, is that I always have the theme from Shaft queued up on my phone for when the plane takes off. And it just scores that moment so perfectly. And I always feel sort of brave when I'm listening to it. So last night at the book event, I just on a whim started playing Shaft into the speakers, and everybody was having fun with that.
Amazing. And I feel you've got it timed out. You were telling us.
Yeah, it's timed out so perfectly because this little drum thing happens while you're taxiing and building speed, and then right when you feel flight has happened is when this flute part comes in. It's really good.
It's perfect.
I highly recommend. Yeah.
I love it. The fear. Susanna's a antidote to fear of flying. You said that, right?
Yeah.
You can remember that.
Yeah.
So here's another question from Jim in Atlanta.
Hi, Jim.
He says, "Hi, Susanna. I have one of your beautiful Susanna Hoff's Rickenbackers."
You do?
Which I bought new.
Oh, Jim.
And he says, "Do you still have any of the early guitars you used in the Bangles?"
Yes, I do.
Like a Telecaster and a 12-string Rick.
I have a
12 time.
I have the 12-string Rick. You know, I don't know about the Telecaster. I'm not sure I have that one still. I have the original Rickenbacker I bought, which was a John Lennon, because I love the Beatles, obviously, or maybe not obviously, but I have a 3/4 size Rick, which is what John Lennon played, a really cute little one. I have several 12-string Rickenbackers. The sound of Rickenbackers are so jangly, like bells ringing, that I love the Byrds, and I love the way they sounded on Beatles records. So I've always had, they kind of cast a magical spell over me when I hear that sound. There's something, it's like the bells of Oxford. I wrote about those in the book, that they signal something for me. Bells ringing. And I would say of all the guitars I've ever played, Rickenbackers kind of have a bell-like sound. So thank you for your question.
Yeah, I know that the bells in the novel are very beautifully written. And I think you even have Jane singing like a bell, or there's something so it's interesting to hear that.
The bell sounds are really beautiful because there's certain little cacophony to church bells. I like the cacophonous sound. They're a little dissonant, but there's something really emotional about them. I think because when the bells are ringing, it's sometimes for a happy occasion, and it's sometimes for a sad, mournful occasion. And I like that they represent emotion. Just, I don't know why. They're just, it's an emotional thing.
That's great.
To hear church bells ringing.
And Jim says, "Hope to see you play again soon."
Oh, me too. Thanks, Jim.
Let's see. Okay. Oh, here's a good next one. So Coco in New Mexico asks, "Would you consider yourself a guitar collector?
Oh.
If so, how many guitars do you own, and what are they?"
Oh my gosh. I own a lot of guitars, and I'm now trying to pass some of them along to friends and my sons. But I don't know how many there are. Wild guess, like 20 or something, or maybe more, but yeah, because I'm including acoustic guitars. I figured you would include those as well on the list.
I think so.
Yeah.
Right, I'm cheating, and I'm going to ask one. I think it's disappeared, but there was something on the screen I liked, asking, what is different. Would you talk a little bit about songwriting and then writing the novel, and how those are either similar or different for you?
Well, I found them very different, and interestingly, but there are similarities too. So I found it very freeing to write prose and not feel that I had to have rhyming schemes. Although Helen will probably attest to this. I found myself writing sentences. I was attracted to writing sentences that had inner rhymes and rhythms and alliteration, because I do have a soft spot for like lyric writing, as opposed to very declarative, simple sort of film noir kind of,
like
snappy, dry writing. I did experiment with the writing style a lot during the years that I was working on the book. Sometimes I would try drier, sort of less emotional writing, but
this is interesting for me to hear.
Yeah,
what I got was so the language is so beautiful.
Thank
you had really tried.
I had tried to be cool. I tried to be cool.
But you are cool.
Well, thanks. But I tried to be the character, to be a little less effusive, a little less I don't know, just emotional in the writing. And then I thought, F it, I'm just going to let her emotional sort of, I don't know, tendency rule the writing style too. I wanted her voice on the page. I like her voice. I like that she's vulnerable. I like that she processes everything.
Yeah.
I like that she feels things very deeply. She doesn't have a thick skin. She has a thin skin. She's got a big heart, and she kind of loves everyone, even people who at first she feels, there's a lot of fun characters in the book when you read it that are sort of these frumpy Oxford professor types that seem that she's very intimidated by at first, but then she just falls in love with everyone. I think Jane loves people and she loves connections, and really I think at the end of the day that's one of the most important things in life. I mean, in my own life, it's like I love my family, I love my friends, I love my children's friends. I want to adopt them all. I mean, I love characters, even ones that at first I'm not sure that that our differences coming together with people who have differences of thought or the way that they live their lives is interesting. And I even liked characters that were, I say that we can be critical of, like Freddie.
Yes.
That I don't necessarily approve of his behavior. There's a character I don't approve, but I adore him anyway because he's just eclectic and eccentric and sort of wonderful in his dysfunction. I find dysfunction endlessly fun to write about because, of course, as human beings, it's part of being human.
Yeah.
So I really loved, and you can't really have a story that's interesting if there isn't a rub somewhere or some kind of conflict. So I found those things really fun to write.
Yeah, I love hearing you talk about. I mean, you can feel your love for the characters again. Things that I fell in love with when I read the novel and knew that we had to publish Susanna here. It just that love for the characters. Like they're fully human.
Yeah.
Even when they are misbehaving, which I agree. I love a book in which people
I love
misbehave a little, but even when they're misbehaving, there's such generosity of spirit toward each of them, and I really enjoy. I've enjoyed that every time I've read the book, which is many times now. Which is just, it's been a delight every single time.
Yeah.
So I love hearing that. And just the language, I mean, the place you brought the language is just so, beautiful and evocative and still specific. And there's such a rhythm. I mean, to me, it's so clear you're a songwriter because even in a novel, you're bringing sort of rhythm and emotion and all these things you're saying to every line as you're reading. So I even after working with you, I don't know how you did it. It's amazing. So, thank you for sharing.
That gosh, with Helen, that's such a huge compliment coming from you as an editor. And
I'm sorry, I keep locking myself out of our questions.
Yeah,
but
I just had so much fun, and I think that was what was surprising to the people who were in my household during this experience, that I could be having so much fun alone. But I never felt alone because I loved all these characters and I just wanted to go and hang out with them. It really was like playing with dolls, but in my imagination, it really was. I don't understand it. I'm still kind of pinching myself. How did I find myself in the offices of Little Brown answering questions from you guys?
We're pinching ourselves too. Okay, I have a fun, speaking of, all the people you've connected with. David in New Hampshire says, do you still have your black and pink wannabe a roadie t-shirt given to you by Dave and Lon during the Bitchern summer tour?
I don't know if I still have it. I might.
Question you'll have to take home with you.
Yeah, I hope so. I've saved most of my T-shirts from that era.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Okay, how about how cool was it recording music with Matthew Sweet?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Now that was a case of me and Matthew discovering each other early on, but never having occasion to collaborate until he pitched the idea, because we did a show together at McCabe's, a little guitar shop with a little really cool stage in the area where all the guitars are hanging. And that just sort of was the impetus to make Under the Covers Volume 1. We didn't know it would be Volume 1. It was just like, let's do a bunch of 60s songs. And then, now there was Volume 2, the 70s, and then Volume 3, the 80s. And I hope there will be a Volume 4, the 90s.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I hope so too.
Me too.
Although I guess that brings up a good reminder that you have a new album coming
Oh,
this
yes,
week.
I do.
So, in addition to writing this wonderful novel and hanging out with all of us, in your spare time. I'm just kidding.
No.
So how has it been creating a new album?
Oh,
alongside?
it's been so fun. I worked with the genius producer Peter Asher, who worked with the Beatles and produced the first James Taylor couple albums that I revered growing up and changed my life listening to that music. And then the Linda Ronstadt albums, Heart Like a Wheel and Prisoner in Disguise, which were seminal records for me. And I really practiced singing along to those records. I really taught myself. I've always been self-taught. This is another thing that I'm finding on this journey that I'm on right now, both with the album. Thank you for your question. But I realized I never really took music lessons. I just learned by finding out the chords from other friends of mine. I was always, and the same with writing. I didn't take any writing courses. It was all from teaching myself by studying other people's books and studying songs. And I don't read musical charts, which is a little bit embarrassing, but I'm admitting it to you guys. But I just get too excited. I want to jump in. The album is called The Deep End. I have this crazy habit of just like jumping in and just hoping that I'll figure out how to swim. And that was true on with music and with this novel.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
I feel like I hadn't thought about your sort of joy for jumping in and the title, The Deep End.
Yeah.
In the chaos of this week. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, congratulations on that too.
Thank you.
We'll let you leave the Little Brown Office, for the album celebration.
Yeah. It's so
we
good
though. Here.
It's so fun here.
Here's one slightly related. So from Bruce in Australia, asking, has this novel inspired any new music or even a soundtrack?
Well, it has. Jane, my character Jane, our protagonist, struggles to write a song, and I don't want to give anything away, but I don't know what. There's too many things I want to do. I want to write another novel, but I also want to, because I was so immersed in writing the novel. Again, after the experience of doing all the covers with Matthew Sweet and having so much fun with that, and the fact that the Bangles also covered a lot of songs like Hazy Shade of Winter, which is a Paul Simon song. Walk Like an Egyptian was a song that we stumbled upon and fell in love with. And Manic Monday was famously given to me by Prince. But I finally, at the end of the Bangles run, wrote Eternal Flame with my friends Billy Steinberg and Tom Kelly. So we went out on a song that I was a writer on, and that was very momentous for me in my life to have written that song with Billy and Tom, because there's a long story behind it. I didn't think it would end up being on the album. It was a very last minute thing to include it, but thank God we did. Yeah. Because who would have thunk that it would have connected globally the way that it did, and continues to just be this gift. And but all that said, what was the original question?
If there would be a soundtrack or music.
Oh,
with
yes.
This,
so I have a dream that I know now that there's going to be a film adaptation of the book.
Yay!
Because you can't hear a song in the book.
Yes.
But that there will be the song that Jane has covered of Jonesy's, and there will be this moment where she finally. Well, I don't want to give things away.
Yeah, I was like about to let you do it, but no spoilers.
No spoilers. Well, you'll have to read the book.
Yeah, but I cannot wait for the movie and to hear some of the music come alive. Although this brings up a good reminder that people can hear your voice with this novel because you recorded the audio.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I'm told that it's online and I haven't been able to listen to it. Gosh. We've been running around. So I, of course, had to narrate.
Yes.
This Bird Has Flown. But there are a lot of British characters with a variety of British accents. Because all the British accents are so cool and different. Yes. And so I didn't trust myself to suddenly take lessons or have a coach on the accents. And there was a reader who I listened to a tremendous amount of audiobooks. Who doesn't love being read to? I know I love being read to by audiobook readers. So I went on this like Nancy Drew adventure to track down anyone who knew my favorite audio reader, an actress from Great Britain named Juliet Stevenson. And she had done the audio reading of the Jane Eyre audiobook that brought things to life. I've read that book 10 times at least in the length of my life. And I never understood some of the sentences because they were just, it's antiquated language. It was written a long time ago. It's not modern sounding. Yeah. And when Juliet read Mr. Rochester, she did Mr. Rochester's voice. She read all the characters, did all the accents. There were things that I thought I knew the book backwards and forwards. Yeah. I never knew the intention of that, of the meaning of what Jane and Mr. Rochester are saying to each other. So I asked everyone I knew, do you know Juliet Stevenson?
Yes. And we're banging on her door from here at Little Brown.
And then the team at Little Brown was helping me find her. And then the greatest thing happened was I got word from Michelle, who does audiobooks here at Little Brown, that she contacted Juliet, and Juliet said yes. So I have yet to hear her, acting out the dialogue.
It'll be a publishing day treat.
Yeah.
I just the two of you together is incredible. So
I read the rest of it, but she pops in all the cool voices with accents.
Yes. Oh, so exciting. And I'll say again, if people have joined late, just that we've had Susanna signing copies. She'll sign more of these. But if you haven't ordered one, I think you can order yours at premiercollectibles.com/Hoff. So okay, good. I made the announcement. So we'll go back to questions.
Okay.
So Ted in Connecticut, I believe, is asking about your creative process. Did you know, without giving it away?
Yeah.
Did you know what the end of the book would be, or did you let the characters lead you? Did you follow the characters without knowing?
I didn't really know the end of the book. I don't think. Looking back, I had a sense. But it really did. It's such a good question. It really did evolve and change during the course of the writing. It really did. I had a general idea, but actually it bloomed to life in my imagination, just like the characters did.
Did it change significantly while you were writing the book?
Well, there were some few 11th hour moment changes where I had a revelation about there were some last minute moments where I was like, this has to change. And then I got on the phone with you, Helen, and you were like, go for it, do it. And then I sent you. And there was things that I read to you over the phone that kind of acted out.
Yes.
There was definitely things towards the end of the book.
Yeah. Well, and hearing them in your voice and thinking about Jane's character, making sure that all of it felt like the right ending.
Yeah. I don't want to give spoilers for you readers, but there was
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I read that to you.
It's very fun.
I acted it out.
You did.
I always wanted to act it out for Helen.
And I mean, what a dream, right? Like
it was so fun.
It was really fun. And that's when we knew you had to do the audio.
Yeah.
We knew where Jane's story had to go. Which was
That was fun. There was some last minute, like under the wire, a couple of things.
Jane is always evolving, right?
I always felt like a marathon runner, like, Helen, wait.
It's like on the way to the printer.
I just have this idea.
pull it out of the chain and make sure it gets done. But no, it was so fun.
We did it.
It's a really good question. Let's see. Some questions about the audiobook, which we already answered. What do you think? Ooh, are there other so here's from Mark in London, where much of this book is set.
Yeah.
Great. Saying happy publication day. Can't wait to read the book.
Thanks,
are there
Mark.
other musicians who have written books, fiction or nonfiction, that you admire?
Oh, yeah. Well, the memoir that somebody asked me about my favorite memoir written by a musician, and I have to say Life by Keith Richards. I just found it so fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
Is
Little Brown.
it Little Brown?
I'm like so spellbound. Little Brown.
It's a Little Brown? Okay, great. Well, first of all,
you're in the right place.
it's full of life. It's for a guy who's had a very wonderful long life with lots of interesting twists and turns. His joy, his love of music. Well, I really related to this like outpouring of joy about music. I loved his pulling back the curtain on how he got the riff for Satisfaction, if I'm remembering. It was from like a girl group song or something. There was like a horn riff and the da 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 da. He grabbed something from somewhere. It was like a little spark of inspiration. I loved him pulling back the curtain on this. I loved that there were 3 readers of the book. The first part was written, I think, was read by Johnny Depp, I think, or the middle part. The middle part was written by someone who was like doing a great Keith Richards imitation. I don't know who he was. And then Keith did part of it.
Oh my gosh.
But it was really funny, the guy who was just doing Keith.
Yeah.
It was so clever because we all want to sound like Keith. We all want to. And also, you know, if you've ever seen Keith Richards in an interview, he's always smiling and laughing. He's got this kind of giggle, that's this gruff kind of giggly sound. And it's just infectious. His love of things and people and pets and life. That's why he called it Life. I highly recommend people read that book.
Yeah. Oh, what a glowing recommendation.
Yeah.
And now I can say from this company, we recommend it too.
Yay! Yay!
Okay, this seems like an impossible question. So we can maybe take this in a different direction.
Okay.
But Brian in Statesville asks, besides Bangles songs, what is your favorite song and what makes a song your favorite? So I don't know if you have a favorite song. If not, I've got some backup questions.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have hundreds of favorite songs is the problem.
Yes, I thought that might be the answer.
Yeah, that's like, that's so hard. I mean, there's just too many to name in a certain way.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I'm a sucker for a really good melody, you know, but I'm also a sucker for like the rhythm of the groove of Shaft. And I'm a sucker for a song that makes me cry. And I'm a sucker for a song that is a song like The Waters of March, which is, that's the English pronunciation or the English translation of the actual title of it. But there are songs that are almost like antidepressants. You know, they serve the same they're conceptually like that. They make, if you are stressed, they feel like a warm hug. You know, there are songs that I can find. There's a song for everything that you need. You know, I think, you know, if you're a person who loves music, I mean, there's every story that's ever been told or felt is hiding or living inside of a song. Yeah. So I'm sorry that I can't name a favorite because I have too many.
Yeah, I would be shocked if you had come out with one. Yeah. But I thought music, and you talked about this a bit already, but I just want to say again, you had a playlist you made when you were writing this, and like listening to music while you wrote this book. And I think the playlist is on. It's
on my Spotify. If you go to Susanna Hoff's Susanna Hoff's on Spotify.
Yes.
And
I think there's a link if you go to your Instagram, you can get to like a link tree page.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
But tell us a bit about maybe just some of the music, a couple of the songs referenced in the book. Are there any that just might also be too hard?
No, it's not.
I feel like I'm thinking like Friday I'm in Love because
Friday I'm in Love kicks off the book. But then when I knew that that the romance was blooming, I realized that I love the Marvin Gaye song "Sexual Healing." Is
there anything more romantic?
I was like, the way that my smile is like, I just was like, there were so many moments of me alone at the kitchen table or the various places that I would work when I get that idea and I was like, sexual healing. Yeah, I'm going with that. Sexual healing. Boom.
Oh, and it fits. Again, I won't give it away. It just fits the book so perfectly.
So there was a lot of fun. There was a lot of fun pairing songs with chapter headings.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, there's so many sort of more obvious and then less obvious references to songs.
They're hiding everywhere. I've never done a count. That could be a fun thing to see.
Count.
How many places a song is mentioned in the book.
But I feel like what I loved about that is that they feel so true to the story because they're part of your life and the way you see the world. And I think you gave that to Jane. Just she can see the world and understand the world through music. And so that's just woven in on the page, which is really, I've never seen anybody do it quite the way you do it.
Oh,
it's just
thank you.
such a cool experience to be reading that and seeing the world. Can you talk a bit about, is Jane based on parts of your life, or how do you feel about Jane as a character sort of separate from you? Is it your own experience? How does she differ?
Well, Jane is definitely like significantly younger than me, which is so fun to write about that period of life in your 30s. I think for some reason in music world, once you hit 30, there's kind of an awareness. I mean, it's maybe it's changing now, but I know from when I started out in the music business, it felt like it was a job for 20 somethings, not because I didn't think you could go past that, because so many of my favorite artists, Joni Mitchell, Bonnie Raitt, just to name two, are make music their whole lives. And I intend to do that as well. But there's just this feeling, there's a certain kind of thing about pop music, and there's a moment. There's often a moment. I mean, it happened for the Bangles in our 20s. And as I approached my 30s, I felt that I was up against something. I didn't know if it's something in the music business, something with people who like pop music, something with radio programmers that they tend to play, unless it's an oldie station. So I felt like Jane is grappling with this. She had a big, massive hit when she was 23 and then suddenly she's 33 and she really does feel like there's no hope for her. And having gotten past those golden years of being in the Bangles, I found it myself personally much harder to make a mark like we did then, to connect. So it has been a bit of a I don't know, uphill battle. I mean, making music is so joyful, so I never really want to describe it as a battle, but it's been a little bit harder to find an audience for some reason. So I was able to know those feelings, and I could give those to Jane.
It feels so emotionally true.
Even
though it also feels like fiction. It feels like she is separate from you and you just love her. Which I loved.
I love her.
This
I want things to work out for her.
And you'll have to read the book.
You have to read,
if they do. You
will have to read it.
This might also be hard, but I think it fits in our conversation about Jane's character. So Carrie asks, in Port Washington, during your musical career, have you had any regrets, and what would they be? And I don't know if that's I'm curious if you have an answer. If not,
regrets. It's so hard looking back. The period of the Bangles is like how many decades are we at? Like, that's the 80s. Like, I'm very bad at math, so somebody.
And I'm an editor, not my area.
Yeah. I don't like to think about regrets. I think generally, I think it's a very valid question, an excellent question. You're making me think here. Who sent the question?
Carrie in Port Washington.
Carrie, thank you for this question. I like to have to grapple a little bit. I found that when I sort of sit and ruminate on regrets, that it hasn't ever done me that much good. I mean, they can be useful in that they kind of remind you to move on. Like, the best remedy to a regret is to not obsess on it, because that doesn't really get you anywhere. It just keeps you feeling kind of terrible. And so what I find is, when I have had a feeling of regret, I should have done this. Believe me, those thoughts cross my mind just like they probably cross all human beings. It's just part of how our brains tend to work. But I'm right now at this phase at just 64 years old. When I have those thoughts, I immediately think, but what inspiring thing can I do? And whatever that is for any of you out there, if you've ever wanted to try this, that, X, Y, or Z, I just say, take the plunge. Don't wait for someone to give you permission to do something you want to do, because I would never be sitting here in the offices of Little Brown with this girl, this character, and this book cover, and this editor,
such a joy.
and be in this moment And I, I cry little joy tears when I'm alone, just thinking, wait, this is pub date. This is happening.
It's real.
And I'm with you guys today. This is very, very special. So don't give up on your dreams, kids. Don't give up on your dreams. And if it's hard work, you just gotta, battle through it. You can do it. It's just let yourself be inspired. There's so much beauty in the world. There's a lot of sad things. There's a lot of challenging things. But you can find the beauty if you look for it.
And I feel like that's reading this book is a reminder of that too. I think you've given that perspective to Jane herself as well.
Have.
And how she sort of makes, I feel like she starts the book with her 4 garbage bags of clothes at her parents' house, like speaking of regrets, and she goes on from there, which is beautiful. So I feel like that's almost a good note to end on. I saw somebody ask when your album is out again. So the book is out today. The album's out Friday. Is that right?
I think so.
Album is out on Friday. So
it might even be out today, but I don't remember now.
Okay.
But it might be Friday. Yeah, we're thinking it's Friday.
Wonderful. Is there anything else? You remember anything we've missed? And like, I could just keep talking to you all day. It's been so wonderful. Yes.
Are you writing the screenplay?
I wrote the screenplay.
If that wasn't captured, is Susanna writing the screenplay for the
Oscar
movie?
Nominated.
No, that's true.
I wrote the screenplay. I felt that because I described how I wrote the book, I was watching the movie of it.
Yes.
And that's how I could design the expressions. And I just watched my imagination. I don't know what was going on in there, but it was all like on fire and telling me all these stories and showing me stuff. But so I am writing. I wrote the screen adaptation.
Now, since you saw this happening right before your eyes, do you know who you want cast in the movie?
Well, I had, this is so fun. Whilst I was writing the book, I had a mood board on my computer. If I saw a face of an actor or actress that struck my fancy, I would just put them on the mood board. And sometimes I would look at faces and I'd just be like, oh, that's like Tom's face a little bit, or ooh, that's Jonesy, or oh, that's Jane. Jane was the hardest. She was a blank slate. I know that because the character sings and dances, that I would ideally love an actress who does those things and can bring to life, Jane's iconic video that she's, never can escape, but still.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about.
Yeah.
They would have to bring to life the video.
Oh, they'd have to bring to life the video. Yeah.
That would be very fun.
Yeah. And I just, so I'm excited about the film adaptation as well.
What was it like after writing the novel to write a screenplay? Was it significantly different? What was that like?
Well, it's a little bit more constrictive because in a book you can just go and go and go. And I was bemoaning this. When you work in final draft, every time you have to have a transition, you have to pull down a bar. You can't flow. I would just type and flow. And if I had typos, I didn't worry. I was seeing the movie. I was there with the characters. But when you're in the final draft program, you have to stop, pull down, transition, pull down, action, pull down character. And then you'd have to pull down the name of the character. But it was weird. It was almost like AI. It would start to know
who's gonna talk.
It would
gosh.
start to know. And because it knows when two people are talking together. So it would start to pull Pippa down, and Jane, Pippa, Tom, it would start to pull down their names. And then I'd be like, no,
she's not talking yet. Yeah. Wow, I didn't know that.
It was a little bit frustrating because the flow state is the state you all want to be in if you're creating. If you're a painter and you're painting, you want to be in the flow. You don't want to have to stop and start. You know what? Here's a good advice to people who want to write. You should turn off your dings. Turn off your devices.
Yeah.
Obviously not your computer or wherever you want to write on. Yeah. If you write on paper, but I wrote on my computer. Yeah. But I didn't answer emails or answer texts or anything. Yeah. And I didn't listen to music while I was writing either, which some people do.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you, by the way. For me, I needed it to be quiet. I didn't want to be distracted. I just wanted to be inside the storytelling.
Yeah.
And then the characters would just talk to me, and I'm like, oh, she's gonna say that. Oh, I know what she's gonna say. It was weird. It was so fun.
I love that. And it just, again,
Like
it just
playing
comes
with
to life.
dolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I cannot wait to see the movie.
Thank you. It'll be a little bit because
Ugh.
they take a while to make.
The worst news, but
I
you know,
know
I will wait.
that.
I will
Yeah.
wait anxiously. I think it's going to be
Thank
phenomenal.
you.
And I just can't wait to see who they would cast.
I know,
as
me
Jane.
too. I
just-
know.
She's so special. She's so special.
Thank you.
Oh, all
We
right.
love
Anything,
Jane.
have we missed anything else in our? All right, our audience, and I don't see any other questions.
Thank you all so
coming up.
much.
Yeah, thank you. Again, I think if you haven't gotten your copy, Sue's going to sign a few more. She's
Yep.
been signing copies.
Don't
so
you worry.
you can get one at premiercollectibles.com/Hoffs. And we hope you do, and we hope you enjoy the book. Susanna, anything else?
Just
you
gonna
wanna
blow
say?
you all a kiss. And send a virtual hug.
Oh, yes.
Virtual,
virtual
hugs.
hugs.
Hey, this is John Acuff, New York Times best-selling author of 7 books and someone who's done a live signing. If you like the one you just watched, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. It's full of amazing authors having great conversations and signing books for viewers just like you. So make sure you subscribe, and thanks for watching today.